Hello team, welcome to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. Today I'm joined by Mr. Daniel Martin. Dan was pivotal in so many areas of my life, not just in work, but in my personal life as well. And Dan was one of the OGs of Total Mental Performance. He came in as a mental performance coach, worked with hundreds of clients, and managed to clock up thousands of hours of one-to-one coaching. On top of that, he took over the admissions process at Total Mental Performance, interviewing the correct fit clients, and signed many clients to come on board here to work with the team. Dan, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you, brother. It's been a while since we've done one of these. It's good to be back.
It's been a good while. It's quite funny beaming you up on the television like Dr. Evil, but here we are.
Yeah. I haven't got a cat to stroke to complete the personal brand image today, but
maybe Patchy the dog next time.
Yeah. He's not really a lap prop though.
No, he's not. He's a big dog. No. He is a big dog.
Yeah.
Today, guys, we're going to be speaking about the new Total Mental Performance Coach certification. I wasn't really too sure how to shoot a podcast like this, and Dan said, I'll just interview you. Dan has been pivotal as well in helping me pull together the curriculum, looking at the various different patterns that have been going on with all of our clients and also our team of coaches that we've trained over the years as well. So, yeah, if I hand over you're in charge now, Dan. I'm going to hand over the reins.
Yeah, giving me the wheel. I'm driving, am I?
You're driving. You got all the questions. Hit me.
Yeah. Cool. Well, tell me what inspired the decision to move into this area and start thinking about certification, not exclusively just working with people one-to-one and in a group context?
The inspiration started actually when I was first training as a cognitive hypnotherapist. So that started a long time ago. It wasn't just a random thing that popped up. So years ago, and you were also trained by a gentleman called Trevor. And Trevor, amazing human being, super bright, really funny in his delivery and the way in which he teaches. And he teaches hypnotherapists in particular and NLP. And I remember being on the course and I remember thinking one day I would love to do this. But what I do see is that a lot of coaches, a lot of therapists, they work as a coach for a year and then they think, all right, I'll start teaching that now. And I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to make sure, I'd had a few thousand hours of one-to-one specifically, not only as a practitioner, but also as a client. I've had hundreds of hours of therapy and coaching and mentoring. But I remember at that time thinking, I'd love to do it. And it's always been on my mind. You and I have discussed this many times. And I've thought about it and I've gone, not yet. And I think we passed the 500 client mark at Total Mental Performance for one-to-one clients. And you and I were in a Zoom meeting with the team. And I think it was Charlotte, Jake, you and I had all had an inquiry over the last 2 or 3 weeks of people saying, hey, how can we learn to do what you do? And this is often the case. This is actually how I got into coaching and qualifying as a therapist. Was I saw the profound change in me as a client, and I thought, I'd love to help people with that one day. And our clients have the same motivations and drive. They want to help people. They've seen the profound change that's been instilled in them. So naturally, as a next step, because you can only take a client as deep as you've gone yourself, they tend to go, well, I want to learn this. And it was only really in the last 12 months in particular where we were getting more inquiries and more people asking. I created a lot more space in my diary as well as yours, as you had a lot more space too, where we were really exploring, well, is now the moment? And I think when we started both as coaches and as therapists, but even when we started as clients, I don't think there was enough people interested in our specific brand of what we coined mental performance. If we think right back to the beginning, I didn't know any other mental performance coaches. I didn't come across anyone, Essentially, I looked at what we were doing. It wasn't mental health. It wasn't just general performance coaching with strength and nutrition and strength and conditioning and nutrition or any of that. We don't touch the physical. So that's when I went, well, I work in the mental field around the way in which they perform. So let's call it mental performance coaching. And now there's many people, and it's a lot more thought about, and it's not so taboo, you know? So I think as well, there's also an element of timing. As more and more coaches are realizing that information isn't the answer. They want to provide deeper experiences, coaching experiences specifically for their clients. And I think that's kind of where it all started, mate. It was right from there.
Yeah, nice, nice. At what point this year, I presume, bearing in mind we're now in August, at what point did you have that seesaw moment where the timing wasn't right compared to the timing is now right? What was that switch?
You know, January, February, I basically wrote the curriculum. I was like, if I was going to do this, how would I do it? And I essentially mapped out my entire process that I've taught you guys, you know, all the coaching team at TMP. And I went, right, well, okay, let's just pull out that process and let's go even deeper. And let's teach this to someone that's never done this type of coaching before. They're coaches, but they've not gone that to this degree. So I kind of wrote it out and I sat with it because you know me, when I go in on something, I don't just, you know, go, all right, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I really sit with it. This is my life's work. I intend to be doing this for years, if not decades, not let me throw out a quick offer, see how much money I can make and get in and get out, you know? So it was right at the beginning of the year, I wrote that curriculum and then I sat with it. And I sat with it on purpose because what I've learned, particularly in my earlier days as an entrepreneur, is if the idea is important, that you'll keep coming back to it. If you truly want to do it, you'll keep coming back to it. And the seed was planted when I was actually doing my training. You and I discussed it numerous times. I think this would be a great idea. I think we could really build something beautiful over the past 4 years at least. And then I created some space in my diary specifically. So I took on less clients. I stopped doing as much marketing and podcasts, and I slowed right down. I was like, well, what do I want to do? Because I still love my one-to-one. If money didn't exist, I'd still do one-to-one coaching every day of the week and twice on Sundays. It was actually that I hit the ceiling in total mental performance because I wasn't willing to go, you know, managing director mode where I come off of the tools and start leading. And that was a conscious decision. All right, the team is a team of 5. You know, we're in a good space. Let's keep it here. The team know how to self-manage. They're pretty good. Let's not go that route. And as I created more space, I was thinking about, well, I still want to impact thousands of lives. How can I do that? And then as I was sitting with it and playing with it, and it went, well, let's say I coach even just 100 coaches in this field. And let's say of those 100 coaches, they only ever coach 50 clients. And they make an impact in 50 clients' lives. So that's an extra 5,100 lives, right? Now, let's say we do 1,000. And let's say they coach more than 50 throughout their career on average. Well, then you're talking tens of thousands. And if not, you'll start reaching 100,000. So when I looked at timing and I looked at where I'm at in my career and I looked at where coaches are in general, and if I look at the upcoming advances with AI and how coaching is changing day in, day out, and it's changing fast, it just felt right. So I can't say it was like a slow tipping. And actually I was on a call with one of my mentors and he said, I like it. Let's just sit on it for another month and see what happens. And then by the time I came back a month later, like it was pretty crystal clear. That's the thing that my heart and soul is interested in and how it could potentially change our small little corner of the universe. And that's how it happened.
Make it a slightly bigger corner of the universe.
Yeah, just try and, you know, expand that. Because when you think on a universal and existential level, right, nothing actually matters. We are so small, and us as human beings make ourselves so important. Thus, we create so much stress and anxiousness and pressure, which we don't need any of that, you know. So, whilst you might feel like the most important human being in the universe, actually we are merely a speck of dust. And when you kind of put it into that perspective, you can go pessimistic and nihilistic. What's the point of even trying? Or you can go optimistic and go, oh, that's existentially freeing. Well, let me just build something that will help some people. And at the end of the day, you know, after I pass away, my impact will be how many lives did I impact? How many people go, oh man, that person really helped me. You know, I think that's more where I come from whenever I say our tiny little corner of the universe.
Yeah, it's the living embodiment of the subtle art of not giving a fuck, right? Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So, what can you tell us about the concept behind the curriculum? Like, if you were to give somebody a 1 to 2 sentence overview of what it's about, how would that land?
1 or 2 sentences. Okay, I'll give it my best shot. If you want to learn how to unlock new levels of performance, of flow and focus within ambitious clients using a proven framework that we've put hundreds of clients through, then this is what you will get within the curriculum. You will learn not only the philosophy of mental performance coaching, but you'll actually learn the A to Z framework to take a client from either A, overwhelmed, stressed, approaching burnout, fatigued, all over the place, to focused, calm, and clear. Or there's a second client, which is life is good. They're flying, they're high flyers, but they know that life could be great. And having the framework that's going to help them take them from good up to great.
That was always a really useful distinction for the clients that I worked with, because many of the people that I had been through therapy and consulting and, you know, less performance focused variations of coaching in the past. And this came up when we used to do our weekly recap calls where we'd all talk about, what was coming up in client sessions, what we were struggling with, what was going well, and just kind of share best practices. With typical disciplines like therapy and counseling, especially, the common consensus would be that people would turn up to a session and just kind of relay the same thing over and over and over again. And I think that articulation of struggle is useful in the immediate short term, right? Because the more that we just keep stuff inside, the more we're fueling the energy that is contained within it. So I think articulating something is good to a degree. Yeah, to a degree. But if you're constantly relaying the same information over and over again, you're just solidifying those neural pathways deeper and deeper and deeper, and it becomes this mental prison that people get trapped in. I think the really unique part of the TMP framework for me, as somebody who's learned it and installed it into my practice, was that it extracts the therapy tools of isolating a problem and resolving a problem, but then not staying there, which is that good to great frame, right? Is you go from a bad place to good, which is typically where therapy and counseling would end, and it has its place. I think everybody should, providing they've got something that's kind of causing them discomfort, experience therapy to understand what that feels like to go from bad to good. But it's the what next part, isn't it, that the performance coaching angle provides. I think it's quite a unique model in that it offers the healing, but then where do you want to go now, and how can we move whatever is between you and that objective and get in there?
Yeah, it comes down to those 3 coins that we've spoken about: help, heal, hone. Help. We help ambitious clients identify where it is they want to go, why they want to go there, and who they need to become in order to pull that off. We heal the parts of them that are slowing them down, that are the psychological handbrakes that are stopping them from taking action and enjoying the journey of business. And then we hone, because once the healing's done, we can then really hone in on what needs to happen for you to go to the next league and what needs to go to the next level. And by having that specific framework, and if we look at our backgrounds in corporate sales and in ambitious target objective commercial roles, a lot of it is how do we get to the target, but how do we get to the target and love the journey of getting to the target, and without berating ourselves or destroying ourselves. In my international boxing career, again, it was working with sports psychologists and mental performance coaches that was teaching me, how do you stay calm under fire? How do you deal with the pressure? How do you stay focused and actually maximize your strengths? And it's taking all those collective experiences and then the trainings as a therapist and NLP and all of the study around neurodiversity and the brain and how we all work and operate, that we've been able to create something super practical. And I think that's what's missing in the therapy model, specifically for ambitious people, because that's who this coaching is for. If you want to work with ambitious, higher level and high quality clients that are really there to do the work and go out and achieve, that's really who this is for. And I think when we both qualified as therapists, I think that was something that we figured out pretty quickly, was the difference between a therapy client and an ambitious performance client. And that's really what this is set up for, you know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, there is a very different energetic imprint, and this is something that I communicated to you. Whilst I was actively working with TMP, I'd say 20-30% of my time was working with addiction clients, because that's, as listeners of this podcast might know through my initial podcast that I did, is a big part of my journey. And the frequency of communication that I would experience in one of my clients in my private therapy business compared to a TMP client, it was totally different. That ambitious mind, we say it as if it's just a passing phrase, but I think there's a fundamentally different formation of neurochemistry in the ambitious mind. And go back to that idea that therapy toolbox can only take that so far before the ambitious mind becomes a little bit bored and perhaps a little bit unstimulated of what comes next. So yeah, it's definitely well placed in this market. So what does the journey actually look like for someone? Let's say that I'm interested in this, and I have been considering upskilling myself in some sort of mindset, performance, enhanced level of coaching to become better at what I do and help clients go deeper. What happens when I say, I actually want this, Kieran? I want to jump in.
Yeah, so if you click below this podcast, whether you're catching it on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, you'll see a link. If you click on that link, that will tell you more about the details, that will tell you more about the dates, and then at the bottom will be a link to book in for your interview. So your interview will be with either me or with you, Dan. And in that interview, what we're really looking for is this what you need? We've built a great reputation, not only based on the client successes, but I think a lot of the results that we're able to get with such a high hit rate has been from the no's that we've said right at the beginning. So what we're really assessing is, why this certification? Why now? And is this in line with your longer term objectives, with what it is that you're trying to achieve and what you want to get out of the certification? We're also making sure on a financial level that there is a level of responsibility where the investment that you do make into the accreditation, it's not going to have you worrying about your rent, worrying about your food, worrying about, oh my gosh, I'm going to panic, because the investment needs to be a bit of a stretch where you go, oh, okay, all right, I'm going to take this seriously, but it shouldn't buckle you. And I think that's another part of the success that we were able to achieve in Total Mental Performance, was we were able to have really candid conversations with our clients around, well, hang on, let's just look at this investment, because if it's too big, you're going to panic, and we prefer to say no, because that doesn't create the best conducive environment for change. But at the same time, it should be a bit of a stretch. You should see the number and go, all right, I'm taking this seriously. So that's also what will happen on those interviews. We have a criteria on our side, and we'll be assessing that. And look, if it's the right fit, then from there, you'll be able to get signed up on your interview. If we don't think it's the right fit, we'll tell you, don't think this is the right fit. Here's another potential pathway outside of TMP that we think is a better route, or maybe here's a book to go and read, here's a course to go and explore, whatever that might be. And then from there, you'll then get access to the members area that we use on a platform called Mighty Networks. You'll have all the dates in the diary, and it will be a case of just getting ready to rock and roll as we move forward.
Jumping in, yeah. And at like a behavioral level, who do you have in mind as being the ideal person to jump into this? Like, what kind of thoughts would that individual be having about the coaching that they're doing in their business and the way that they're moving through their journey? Like, what would a couple of examples be for someone who this would be great for?
Oh, great question. Yeah, this certification would be great for two types of client. There's the first, who is a coach. They love coaching, but they're just feeling disconnected. They want to solve deeper problems. They're fascinated by psychology and mindset, but the way in which they're currently delivering their coaching, they feel they get results and it's good, but it's not lighting them up insofar as fulfillment. So for those clients that are looking for a proven framework to go deeper psychologically with their clients, to understand their client story and help them move forward, I would say that's the first type. The second type is you're a coach and you're a psychology geek and you're a performance geek, and for you, you just want to be the best coach that you can be. You've probably done lots of various different trainings across various different areas, and you're just looking to be the best that you can be. And maybe you're looking for a specific framework, a step-by-step playbook that you can use so you can ultimately, again, work with clients or team members to get better results in what it is that they're trying to achieve. So I would say they're the two distinct profiles of people that this is built for.
And what they're learning is a direct modeling of the structure and process that us as coaches were delivering, right? That's what people are going to be learning as they jump in.
Yeah, so there's three key phases, right? So the first key phase, which is what is actually philosophically mental performance coaching and mentoring. Because for what I believe it is, it's not therapy and it's not mental health, but it's also not wishy-washy life coaching. It's also not just, let's set some goals, you know. All that stuff can be done with ChatGPT. That stuff's over, you know. So it's understanding philosophically, well, where is your place in the coaching journey, and how can you distinguish, this is a perfect mental performance coaching client, or actually my client is working in a slightly different field, but this is what they need. It's also about keeping you safe as a practitioner. You and I have heard tons of stories of coaches that brand themselves as a mindset coach, a performance coach. They haven't done the prerequisite training, and they've touched into some serious areas like child abuse, sexual abuse, trauma, and have actually left the client in a worse place versus in a better place. So we'll be putting safeguards in so you know specifically where your bounds and limitations lie, so you're never caught out in a situation where you're having a conversation and you're totally unprepared. So that's the first part, that's the philosophy. Then the second part essentially is what the framework that we've distilled down at Total Mental Performance across tens of thousands of hours, you know, of one-to-one coaching, as what I've learned as a therapist, learned as a coach, learned as a mentor, learned as from international software sales, international boxing, and it really is going, okay, well, here are the problems and here is the language you need to listen for from this client. Here's how you know when to do an emotional intervention. Here's how to know when not to do that. And if you are going to choose an emotional intervention, here is the toolkit for you to choose from. And here is how you actually deliver that effectively and safely to create deep, lasting psychological change. And then as they move through that journey, that coaching journey, well, actually, it's not only talking about feelings and emotions. How can you help a client get into flow state more? How can you get them to calm down? How can you get them to focus and become more productive so they can move towards their goals more efficiently and get more work done in less time? And then as they're going through that journey, it's then taking them into the peak phase, right? And it's helping a client actually identify, well, what is the life of their dreams? Where do they want to go? Why do they want to go there? What is their values? And it's distilling down their unique one-to-one performance playbook. So again, by taking everything that we've put together, it will be a framework where client represents a problem, do this, and here is the tool, and here's how the tool works, and here's how you follow up. And then finally, there's the commercial element. So we're going to be spending a little bit of time around, well, actually, how do you build an offer around mental performance coaching? You know, between us, you and I have sold well over 7 figures of this coaching. It's a unique sell because you are in a place of authority, but you're also in a place where if you misabuse this, it's not good. You know, people might be coming to you feeling a little vulnerable, and you've got to identify, just because they will sign up, are they the right client? How do you create a coaching process? And how do you create a program that's long enough to get the results, but short enough so a client isn't just stuck in a therapy loop? And even just the soft skills, Dan, like how do you open a conversation? If you're going to do this face-to-face, in person, well, where does the space need to be? How do you sit? How do you make eye contact? What questions do you ask? If you're going to do this online, you know, how do you set up that environment? And even the little tricks of the trade that you won't learn on an accreditation, but there's the things that I've picked up. For example, here's how I specifically take client notes. So you can actually go back to any session and see what they were working on any day of any of those sessions. And you can see specifically what was the emotion, what was the structure of those emotions, what was the challenges that was stopping that client from making the breakthrough. And the reason that's important is to be able to show the client how far they've come. You say, hey, remember when you had this belief? Literally on this date, 6 months ago, you had this belief about yourself and the world. You're like, yeah, I completely forgot about that. Where are you at with that now? No, it's completely different. So little things like this, how to structure your day, how to structure your package, how I work. I always have a 30-minute buffer between sessions. It's long enough for me to just rest and lie down and take a glass of water. It's long enough for any overflow. Like the small little tricks of the trade that you only get picked up being sat next to somebody that's done this for a good while and has done it to a high level. So yeah, by the end of it, not only will you know what is total mental performance and what is mental performance coaching, you'll also know, here's the specific framework, here's how I know when to pull what lever and what to solve when, and then you'll have a good guidance. So at the end of this, you could actually go out, I say market in air quote, because I don't believe these businesses are built on amazing marketing. It's helpful, but actually, how do you sell this? How do you sign your first mental performance clients? And you can start to go and build your business and your practice, whether that's alongside your current practice as a new offer, or integrating this as an offer within your current coaching practice. So yeah, that's really the nuts and bolts of what we'll be going through. But it's hyper practical.
That last phase, I definitely hear that, and what you've explained there, that final phase is what takes all of what is, let's be honest, abstraction, just ideas and intangible things, which is what I think I've seen a lot of people in that area really struggle with. Like, it's very easy to pick up a book on psychology or jump on ChatGPT or watch a few YouTube videos and understand and grasp these psychological principles, but taking those, embedding them into your day-to-day working week, and then taking that and actually monetizing it and turning it into money and great client results, that is hard. That bit is really, really difficult, right? So to have somebody who has, like you just said there, built a business which went to 7 figures is invaluable, because it's not so much the learnings that you picked up through doing a course, it's the nuance that has been learned through hours and hours of making mistakes along the way, I'm sure, and figuring out, okay, well, I won't be doing it that way again. This is what has worked. I think I'll lock that one in as a process. That's where the real wisdom comes from, isn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking about, if I was going to explain the energy of this course, right? This is how I'd describe it. There are some courses that will show you a tomato and they'll show you the mechanical breakdown of the tomato and every single vitamin and nutrient and the water percentage, the color and why it is that color and where it was grown and how you cultivate all of that and the science behind it. And then there's someone else that will give you the top 20% of what you need of that information. That will give you the 80% of the results. But actually will also teach you, you don't put a tomato, because it is a fruit, and you don't put it in a fruit salad, right? So it's about having the level of wisdom to know, actually, you don't put tomatoes in a fruit salad, even though it's a fruit. You actually put it in a normal salad. And it's the practical application and the tools and techniques and the wisdom of knowing, that's when I apply it. Here's a really simple example. Sometimes you're going to have a client, maybe they're growing a business, maybe they're working as an executive, maybe they're working, they've got a high pressure environment. And the therapy tools that you'll have learned in this process, you'll see, anxiousness is clearly deep rooted in here and we need to crack this open. But actually, they're working on a really important deal or important project over the next 3 weeks. And if you crack that open right now, you might actually botch the thing that the client is actually really important to their career right now, and you might actually spin them out completely. So whilst as you're looking at the science and you're going, this makes total sense. Like, this is the emotion and this is the problem and this is where it's potentially coming from and I'm going to use this intervention. Actually, the wisdom comes from, we'll do that in 4 weeks. We won't do that just now because the stakes are pretty high. So I think that is, hopefully I've articulated that well to explain the difference and the energy of the practicality of this training that I'll be putting together. I say putting together.
You have, if I could, I'll reflect it back in the way that my mind's interpreted it, right? And then whoever's listening to this will get two different interpretations of the same thing. 3 points. One is the distinction between information and insight, which I think we've spoken about before, right? Like you can go and consume enormous amounts of information, which is what we see when people go and spend 5-7 years studying for a PhD, which isn't it. I'm not saying that's an inherently bad thing at all. I've got enormous amounts of respect for people who've put in that amount of time, effort, and money fundamentally. But information is here's a thing, here's what it does. Insight is here's why it works, and here is how you apply it. And that then creates a bridge into the conversation about wisdom. Wisdom is a term that we hear get thrown around so commonly, right? But like, what actually is wisdom? The way that I interpret wisdom is having the discernment to consider the second or third degree consequences. How do you have that? You spend time in the trenches and you see it over and over and over again. And that speaks so perfectly to what you just said there about that client example. Someone's got a deadline for a project which they absolutely need to deliver, but they've got anxiety that's coming up to the surface. And if you haven't got that wisdom and insight into what the second or third degree consequences would be of going into that box, opening up, bringing it up to the surface and potentially derailing that project, then doing the work at that point in time could become incredibly counterproductive. So does that align with what you said there? Just a slightly different interpretation?
Yeah. It's about how does rubber hit the road and you actually build something. You can spend... I mean, look, we've got Dr. Kate Blackford in the TMP team. She worked with us for years. She is a great example of somebody that studied it, spent a lot of time, diving deep in specifically into organizational performance psychology, and at some point went, you know what, I just need to go and do the thing. And then she went out and did the thing, right? And I think that's really, that's what we built the whole Total Mental Performance brand on, is yes, there is deeper emotional inner work to be done, but don't do it for the sake of doing it. Do it with an outcome in mind. Do it because you're trying to achieve something and you're very specific. And I think that's where we are very different with our approach, is because we're so outcome focused. We're so, even now where I'm working with clients over a 12-month project, I'll regularly pull up the original coaching brief and say, this is what you came for. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you think we're at? Sometimes clients will say, oh, we achieved that 3 months ago when we're doing a quarterly check-in. Great. Okay. Well, look, you got what you came from for your investment. Let's redesign the brief. Or, I'm a 7 out of 10. Right. What's missing for this to be a 10 out of 10? So you look back on this coaching brief and this investment and you go, that was the best investment I ever made. And I think when you think in those outcomes specifically from mental performance, it's not just this washy, how do you feel today? It's, right, where are we at? Where we said we were going to get action A, B, and C done from our last session. Before we dive into anything here, where are we at on those? Are they ticked off? Yes. What were the outcomes of that? Good. Right. Okay. And you might have an idea of a treatment plan insofar as, right, here's how we're going to crack onto the next level. They might bring something that's acute. They might bring something that's got nothing to do with the longer term strategic objective, but they've had a big problem that's landing on their desk, and you're a trained thinking partner to help them make decisions, whether that's in their businesses, whether that's in their careers, or sometimes it's in their personal life as well, and being able to be that thinking partner to help them unsolve that. So it's all about doing the thing. It's about being really hands-on and adding value. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel? How does that make you... That's not helpful when you've got somebody that has to make decisions and they are in a high-pressure environment. Our clients typically are the providers, and they're building, and they're not aggressive, they're ambitious, and they aggressively move towards their work. You can't just sit in, how does that make you feel, for too long, because they'll switch off and they'll go, this isn't going to help. So a bit of a tangent there, but...
Yeah, I've seen it myself. So it's called the TMP certification. What does that certification mean?
Yeah, so you'll be certified by Total Mental Performance. So you'll be able to market that, qualified from Total Mental Performance. I'm a Total Mental Performance coach. And in the coaching space, our brand's pretty powerful. It's got, a demonstrated track record of client results. And outside of the piece of paper, actually what you do have is a series of tools and frameworks that are going to work end to end. So that's the certification. You only get that by completing all of the trainings. So whether that's the live masterclasses. We're going to be doing half-day trainings every 2 weeks. And then there's also going to be a series of tests at the end of those. Now, they're not exams. If you remember me and exams, exams weren't my thing. There will be a series of quizzes for you to complete for us to know, okay, they're taking the information on board. They're not just sort of not really taking part, and you'll have to go back and you'll have to complete them again and again until everything is complete. So yeah, that's how we're set up.
Awesome. And logistically, what does it look like with regards to how the trainings are delivered? You mentioned a quiz there. What are people actually going to have to do when they're on the inside?
Yeah, so I really thought about what creates the best experience, and I think weekly 1 hour or 1 or 2 hour Zoom calls is boring. It's just boring. It's not an event, At the same time, whilst it's a great way of making money, I also don't believe a 2-day container is actually the best way for somebody to be able to absorb the knowledge and the wisdom required to deliver this. So I did look at, okay, well, maybe it's a 1 or 2 hour weekly call. Maybe it's a 1 or 2 day course. And you and I both know, mate, that just doesn't work. It just doesn't sit. So
for something like this?
No. So it's 4.5 months. 4.5 months is enough time for you to change the way in which you think and feel and perform. And it's enough for you to get the tools that you need. So, and this is specifically for coaches that are already coaching. If you've never either A, coached a client, or B, you've never managed or led a team member and you are starting from scratch, then this is not the certification for you. But what we'll be working is every 2 weeks on a Friday, we'll be having a 4-hour immersive day. It's online, it's on Zoom, and it's not only going to be me speaking at a camera giving you information, but we're going to be having breakout rooms for you to practice having conversations, for you to start practicing tools and techniques. The reason I've done it as a half day as well is it's an event. It's something you should be excited for, not another thing you look into your calendar and you go, oh, it's another hour. How am I going to squeeze that in? I'm tired. I need to get a sandwich in. No. We got 4 hours every 2 weeks for 4.5 months where we're going to be diving deep on all of the tools, techniques, the frameworks, and the philosophy of what has led to all of the success that we've achieved at Total Mental Performance with mental performance coaching.
What do you think you'd say to someone who said, I'm going to struggle to squeeze that in my calendar?
Yeah, look, there will be some people that will either A, have genuine concerns, I can't put the time in, or B, if you value it enough, if you truly want to start working with clients deeper, on a deeper psychological level, and you want to go to that next league and that next level, and you want to be able to increase what it is that you charge and work with higher level clients, you can't do that with ChatGPT. You can't do that with some online sort of course where you do a couple of 5-minute videos. That's not how this works. So what I would say is if you are somebody that likes to work like that, you should probably qualify yourself out. But if you are somebody that is genuine about excellence, and you value excellence, and you value doing things properly, then you'll find a way to make that work. If you can't invest 8 to 10 hours a month into something like this, then why bother even thinking about becoming a mental performance coach? This isn't a container where it's like, oh yeah, we rock up and we do a level 3 PT course and we kind of just go through the motions and away we go and it will be all right. No, this is, if you want to seriously work with ambitious people and you want to change the way in which they think and feel so they can hit their objectives better and feel amazing while doing it, then if that's truly important to you, and if you're thinking more selfishly, you want to build a practice with clients that you love and find a coaching process and mechanism that you love that generates results and can help you build a more lucrative coaching business, and again, you'll find the time. And if it's not truly important to you, then so be it. But a caveat I would say is imposter syndrome can kick in. And imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, can masquerade as I don't have enough time. So when you say, oh, I can't possibly squeeze that in, really ask yourself, well, what is that about? Are you afraid of, oh, what if I can't make one of the live sessions? What if I fall behind? All the other courses I've done have been really hard, or I don't want to fail on any of the little tests that come through at the end of each section. What if? Well, if that's the case, time isn't the issue. It's your relationship with yourself. And what I would say is a lot of the work that you learn to certify in this type of coaching, unconsciously, a kind of secondary gain will be you'll start to spot the patterns within yourself that are holding you back, that you might not even have been aware of. So you, not only as a practitioner learning this stuff is going to get all of those tools, but actually you're going to learn, here is my next league and next level. Here is my blind spot. Here's how I'm actually tripping myself up. And if you are, stuck around this idea of time and it's actually more of an emotional issue, then again, if you're a coach, then this is going to be very valuable for you, is what I'd say.
What you said there just reminded me of the training process as the therapist. That was one of the most transformational 12 to 18 months of my life. I'd not really done any internal acknowledgement, let alone work, before, but training with a bunch of like-minded folks who, most of which hadn't done a whole lot of work themselves either. When you're going through that journey of learning new skills by implementing them on one another, and you're all at that same level, there's a really beautiful sense of community and camaraderie that comes with that, because you're all a little bit clunky and you're trying to figure things out and it doesn't flow as perfectly as possible, but there's no judgment in that space because you're all in the same place. I don't know if you experienced that when you were training as well. It's a really beautiful thing, but everybody progresses at the same rate, more or less. Some people go a little bit further ahead, some people fall behind. It's going to happen. We're all individual sentient human beings, right? We're going to learn at a different rate, but there's a very special energy that's created when you're all learning the same tools and techniques at the same time through working on yourself, right?
Yeah, and what's amazing is some of the best relationships come out of that, those relationships, and you make really good friends, professional colleagues, and by being in those communities of like-minded individuals that, if we look at this cohort, because it's the first cohort, it's going to be filled with ambitious, caring, loving people that value performance and excellence, that want to go up a league and level, but they want to do it the right way. They want to do it from a place of groundedness. They don't want to come in, sell a load of it, take the money and run. They are financially motivated. They do want to work with higher level clients and earn a very profitable and comfortable living. There's no getting around that. But with this group, it is going to be that environment. And there might be some therapists listening to that going, no, I don't want to be a part of that. It just sounds too intense. And that's probably right. It will be too intense. But if you are somebody that is curious about performance, curious about psychology, curious about, well, how can we get better? Well, then that's the people that you're going to have around you. And then you and I we were talking about the TMP values: be water, be honor, be love. And that's what we built the whole company on. Be water, be adaptive, be curious, be good at what you do. Be honor, you shake somebody's hand, you look them in the eye, your word is your bond, and you honor that. And be love. In a world of digital, sometimes we forget that there's human beings sat on the other side of the phone, on the other side of the screen. But we were missing a value, and that value, I can't quite put it into be, right? Because you can't be it to a degree. But it was laughter. Was actually enjoying the journey, like actually having a laugh, because while sometimes it can feel very serious, we're talking about emotions and trauma, capital T, little t, when we can learn that actually you have the choice to enjoy it. You have the choice to have fun. You have the choice to actually look at the universal cosmic joke as to how ridiculous all of our perceived problems are. That's quite important too. So you're going to be surrounded by people that like that, people that value excellence and want to be the best at what they can. They're old school, they shake hands, they do a deal, they're honor, they love, they care about people, and they want to have a laugh, And if that sounds like your type of environment, then great. If you're hearing that and your back's up and you're going, God, what a bunch of losers. Or maybe the opposite. Who do these guys think they are? And cool. And that's okay. Yeah. And then you just have to listen to that signal. And if the signal feels right, then just click on the link below this podcast and you'll be able to have a chat with me or Dan and figure out whether this is the right move for you right now.
Yeah, beautiful. This has been cool for me to just hear about what's going on the inside. It's an exciting little pivot.
It's good fun, yeah.
Yeah.
It is good fun.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we're at 45 minutes here.
Yeah. You got any other?
Is that good?
You got any other questions that you want to ask about the certification, or?
We've covered it.
All right. Well,
yeah, we've covered it.
Guys, please do get in touch if you feel like this is the calling, this is the signal, and you've listened to it and you've gone, wow, I really want to do that. Regardless as to where you're at, you know, if you're a coach and you have either some concerns about, am I the sort of person that can pull this off? Come and talk to us. If you're worried about the financial investment and that's the thing that's holding you back, it's like, I'd be in. I'm a little bit unsure on the finances. Well, just jump on a call. You know, if we don't think it's right, we'll tell you this isn't right now. Instead, start with this book or do this. If we think it's a limiting belief, we'll say, actually, it's not as bad as you think. Maybe consider this. But again, this is something that I'll be teaching on the course, is how to qualify clients and make sure that they're in a place where they are going to get the result, and they're in the place where they're mentally ready, physically ready in their hearts and their souls, and financially they're in a place where it's the right move. So that's how we've always operated. To be fair, probably would have made a lot more money if we had lowered the bar a little bit on that side and said, hey guys, go take out credit card debt and go and make it happen. That's not our style. So if you're listening to this and you feel like it's exactly what you need, or you're like 7 out of 10 there and you just want to explore a little bit more, then jump on a call, as I think we can help you. So Dan, thank you so much for not only just for today, but for being such a pivotal part of Top Mental Performance, such a pivotal part in my corner, both as a brother and as a friend, and what we're doing in Top Mental Performance, where we're going, what we're doing. It's cool.
My pleasure, brother. Best place to be.
All right, team. Infinite love. And I hope you enjoyed today.